do for Michigan's season in prime time with you guys doing it. How pivotal is this for them, do you think?
I think it's gargantuan. I think their entire season hinges on this game. They haven't won these types of games with Harbaugh being here. And I know they've beaten Wisconsin at home. They've won a couple of home games. And I know it's not the rivalry thing. But you lose this game, and you may not be mathematically done, but you're done. They have to win this game. If they want to take the next step. Now, look, they're not going to shut down the program. They're not going to change the coach. I'm not saying any of that. They have to win this game if they're going to take the next step. If they are legit and if they are aspiring to be at Ohio State's level, then they win this game. And, you can dance around it. I almost said something else. You can dance around it all you want to. That's where we are. And if they're going to be legit and a contender, then they win this game. If they don't, then they're still building.
From your perspective, why haven't they been able to win these games?
There are a multitude of reasons. I'm sure the coaching staff can answer better than I, but I think that they haven't necessarily had explosive play at quarterback. Some of it's been bad luck. I mean, the Michigan State game on the punt play, which I'm sorry I brought up here, but for you guys, that's bad luck. The tough call at Ohio State. You win a couple more of those, then you feel differently about what the record is. And, well, okay, maybe they haven't gotten to the playoff, they haven't done this, and maybe if they won the Ohio State game, they would have. But I think it's been a multitude of factors. Most of it seems to have centered around maybe the offense hasn't been as explosive as they would have liked, and I think you're starting to see. Some improvement in that area. The numbers on passes that have traveled 10 yards in the air or farther are much improved over last year. Shea seems to be getting more comfortable utilizing weapons, finding new ones. Big bruising fullback that they've got now. They're using it tailback. They're finding a multitude of ways, and it looks a little bit more like Jim's offenses at Stanford. And I don't think they haven't won these games because of a mental block or whatever, but it can weigh on your confidence and make you start pressing when you've lost several of them. And the good thing about a game like this is, and I don't think I undersold at all how important I think it is for Michigan, but the good news is if you win this one, then the next one, as it pertains to the rivalry, is even bigger, and the one after that is then really huge. So that's the reward for winning big games, is that the next one becomes bigger.
You worked in this state.
I did.
What do you make of sports fans here, and how do you take your knowledge of sports fans here onto the national stage?
There's great passion for it. I think that there's a little bit of a different feel and a different vibe. Like, say, if you compare Michigan fans to Michigan State fans, there's kind of a reserved expectation from Michigan fans a lot of times, and that's because they've won more than anybody, and they are used to competing for championships, and there's always sort of that underdog fighting feel to Michigan State. No matter how good they are, they always seem to thrive in that role. So it's a little bit, notice I didn't use the two words that Mike Hart did, and I'm not going to, but because certainly with the excellence that Michigan State's had, they're not anybody's smaller sibling. I didn't use the two words still. They're not that. Struggling this year, but they're not that. So I think that there's a deep pride and passion from the fans that you try to tap into and capture when you come to the venue and try to touch the traditions and things that are meaningful to those fans when you're here.
Rece, how have you liked the play of Shea Patterson so far this season?
He's really talented. Obviously, I saw a lot of him, he was coming out of high school and then in his time at Ole Miss. And I think I was at the Notre Dame game on the sideline. He was a little, didn't look comfortable, maybe is the best way to describe it, but the talent is obvious. And I think as they continue to find ways to use him and have him utilize his weapons and his athleticism and get out on the edge from time to time, I think he is a dynamic playmaker. You talk to a lot of guys that went against him in the SEC, and he scared them all the time, but when he really scared them was when the play got off schedule a little bit, and he's pretty good like that. And I think that's something, candidly, that Michigan hasn't had. Denard Robinson, I guess, but certainly they haven't had it in the Harbaugh era here.
Has Desmond ever taken you to his favorite haunts here?
He is not. Desmond he never buys me Zingermans. He hasn't. He's a man who loves sweets. I don't even know his favorite donut shop here. I mean, that's the way to Desmond's heart. If you don't know that, if you need to make Desmond like you, get him some really nice donuts or something. He and I share that now. When they bring out the food at the end of game day every week, it's like, sweets can come right over this way. We'll take that. So.
Gotta go to Demo's on Stadium.
Demo's on Stadium? What's there? What's at Demo's?
The best donuts in Ann Arbor.
Okay. All right. You know what? Desmond's actually very generous. Maybe he did buy those last time we were here. But let's say he didn't. and he can do it again this time.
Now, you've already put this game in perspective and how big it is for Michigan, but with the one loss being to Notre Dame, and there was like a lot of fan backlash coming out of that game, could you, like, when you look at how good or maybe not good Notre Dame is, like, could you put that into perspective considering Michigan seems to kind of be forgotten about?
It happens early in the season. If you have an early loss in a game that was deemed at the time to be huge to playoff implications, even that early, people will say, oh, what's wrong with Michigan? And then it turns out that Notre Dame is pretty good. Notre Dame has been an odd team because when I ranked in my AP vote, I had them in preseason top 5. I really like Notre Dame. And then after the Michigan game, the next 2 games, I don't like Notre Dame as much. Now they put Ian Book in. Now their offense is complementing that defense. And to turn your question back toward Michigan, that's not a bad loss. It's just a loss. It's a 1-touchdown loss on the road against a playoff team. So Michigan's resume, if they can follow that up with, if you're talking playoff, they have to win the Big Ten, right? So with winning a Big Ten championship and your only loss is in September on the road against Notre Dame, that doesn't necessarily mean to me, now it might, certainly if Notre Dame's undefeated, it doesn't mean that forever and always Notre Dame has to be stacked ahead of Michigan. It was in September. I mean, teams change. If Michigan looks like a better team at the end of November and Notre Dame stumbles and bumbles down the stretch but somehow still in it, you can reasonably say Michigan's now better, and I don't think that's wrong. That's why we have a committee. That's why we have the playoff. But in terms of just the objective data of looking at what that loss means, that's not a bad loss. That was just a loss against a really good team on the road, tough place to play opening night. It was a hard-fought game, and they lost. And that's okay. Well, it's not okay to lose, but you know what I mean. It's not, let me rephrase, it's not disqualifying. How about that? It's not disqualifying.
What goes into the process of picking this game rather than, say, LSU Georgia?
Number of factors, I think. I don't be disingenuous if I said if LSU had won. It doesn't always depend on that, but if you have number 2 versus number 5, then certainly we would have been in Baton Rouge. But I think that what we try to do on the show is cast a pretty wide net. And this game is a bit of a playoff eliminator for both, even though certainly it's not a Big Ten eliminator for either, since both have losses in the non-conference. But I think that there was a feel that you had this game, you're probably going to have other opportunities with LSU and Georgia as it goes forward, and we might have other opportunities with Wisconsin and Michigan too. But you sort of looked at it and sort of felt like that maybe it was, it was the right place to be this year.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, all right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.